I'd be interested to get your thoughts around what's happening at Parliament still. I want to play something actually,
Mm.
and this is I'm a strong believer that if you scratch the surface for long enough of people who are anti-mandate protesters, most of them, eventually you get to a pretty significant conspiracy theory. So if you keep scratching and saying, why is that? Why is that? What the kind of foundation of everything is lizard people, microchips, Bill Gates, yada, yada, yada. Now, I'm not identifying who this person is. I'm on their Facebook page. That's why I've made it full screen. But I'd like people just to hear an example of one of the people, and only one person, may not be representative, at the protest talking about their children who have gotten sick at the protest.
Really quickly, the kids are having a sleep. I was having a sleep. Sanders woke up today. Fuck, he felt unwell. So I gave him some Pamol and he had a 2 hour sleep and he was okay. He was like, shit. Okay. But it's, obviously radiation poisoning. Like, people were like, oh, maybe it's the food. No, he's a picky little bastard and he eats sausages and I've been making him noodles and fucking skitty for the last couple of days, let's be honest.
So that's probably enough to hear from that. But I don't know. I don't know if you could hear it clearly or entirely, but it's obviously radiation poisoning. So
Look,
I think that this is what we're seeing at the. I mean, I've been saying it for weeks. That it is weeks now. The anti-mandate protesters are actually anti-vaccine protesters. They're allowed to be anti-vaccine protesters, but they're sort of couching their opposition to the mandate and civil rights, but actually they're just scratched far enough, and you get to the government is shooting us with radiation from the beehive.
Yeah, look, I actually, I've got to the point where you almost have to feel sorry for genuine protesters who are down, the ones who do believe, in civil rights, and because there are some, there are some out there, but even they must be looking around. When the tinfoil hats appeared, I mean, I'm a comedian, I couldn't make that up. It's
Yeah, for sure.
satire is officially dead. When you've got standing outside the beehive, literally, when Thornton New World has run out of tinfoil. Yeah, I mean, in some ways it's hilarious. In other ways, it's very sad. I mean, I read a report from a frontline police officer down there recently, where he was saying there's a lot of people who are there just because they want to feel like they're part of something. They want to be surrounded. They're lonely in many ways. They want to be surrounded by other people who they believe that they have something in common with. But the problem with this protest right from the beginning is that it has been such an umbrella group. I mean, it's covering when you, like I say, if you are genuinely down there because you're worried about civil rights and government intervention, then all power to you. But if you're standing next to somebody carrying a swastika flag, and you're standing next to somebody else with a kill list of politicians and media journalists that they think should be killed, you're on the wrong side of history. And I guess, the confusion for so many of us is how it's been allowed to go on for so long. Is, if you look at the history of protests in this country, you would sort of think the police would have done something else. I mean, it's happening in Auckland now. We've got people camped out in the Domain. It's happening down in Dunedin, I hear. It's it is. It's worrying. It's sad. It's unintentionally funny at times. When I first heard EMF were going, I thought they just added "Unbelievable" to the playlist out the front of Parliament.
A good song.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a classic one-hit wonder. But yeah, you're right. You scratch the surface, and you have these conspiracy theories, this QAnon fueled nonsense, and it's dividing people. I mean, I've lost friends down the rabbit hole. I've lost family members down the rabbit hole overseas to these things, and I just have to cross my fingers and hope that when we come out of this, whenever that may be at the other end, that those bridges can be mended. But I spent so much time this week. Removing people from my Facebook friends list and muting people, and because it's exhausting. I always go back when it comes to arguing with some of these people. I go back to the late great Mitch Hedberg, who had a joke: "Is no matter how good you are at tennis, you're never going to be better than a wall. Those fuckers are relentless," and that's what it feels like. It feels like you're just banging, hitting against the wall, and it just keeps coming back, and no one's going to win that argument.
Someone says, Emperor Vowels says, I don't even know if to scratch far when I saw tinfoil hats, I thought it was just them taking the piss. So I agree with Jeremy that protesters
Yeah.
are swamped by the alt-right. I think the protesters at the moment, in my opinion, is it seems that I don't know what the opposite of Occam's razor is, but most people think about Occam's razor as, you know, the most obvious conclusion is more often not the correct conclusion. The actual thing it says is it's the fewest number of assumptions to get to an outcome. That's what Occam's razor. It seems that the protesters take the most amount of assumptions to get to their conclusion. So whatever the opposite of Occam's razor is, that seems that's what the protesters in Parliament are doing right now. So